Good morning. Welcome to the Premium Public Video Forecast discussion for Friday, August 15th, 2025. We have a couple of things to talk about, but the primary focus on this video is going to be on Erin as we watch this storm develop and likely to become a hurricane in a very short period of time. First, I just want to go over some of the CDC data that, again, I'm working with the CDC to share some important information about where we are with the viruses. I figured, hey, a lot of people travel around the northern mid-Atlantic, so it's good to kind of know this idea. And overall, the number of COVID cases is starting to rise, which you would expect for this time of year. As we move towards the fall, we should see, because we're seeing more polar air masses coming in, cooler temperatures, the body is more susceptible, and you're having more people get together in crowds, the number of cases of COVID and the flu and all these other respiratory viruses are going to start to increase. So if you have any type of medical issues, I definitely would check in with your doctor just to make sure that you are in a good place. But we are starting to see that gradual rise, which we typically see as we head towards the end of the summer and into the start of the fall. Now let's talk about the tropics. And we have one disturbance first we're going to cover real fast that's in the Gulf now that is heading towards the northeast Mexican and southeast Texas coast. There's a chance here this could pick up some tropical characteristics. It's a weak trough right now. It could form a tropical depression or maybe even jump to a tropical storm before making landfall over the next 12 to 18 hours. By the time we get to tomorrow morning at this time, it will be over southern Texas, producing significant rainfall, but no other further development. But of course, all the focus is on Tropical Storm Erin, which as of 8 a.m. Had winds of 70 miles per hour. It is very close to becoming a hurricane. It's moving to the west-northwest now at 17 miles per hour. And as you can see, the track is expected to remain to the north of the Lesser and Greater Antilles and curve up towards the coastal waters between the United States and Bermuda. Now, the model guidance here, let me just jump to that real fast, has been pretty consistent in curving this storm to the north and out into the Atlantic. That's being shown here on the European Ensembles guidance, and you can also see that in a lot of the hurricane models basically taking this turn and heading it out. So why are the models consolidating on this idea, and why is it that really there isn't a lot to worry about for the northern mid-Atlantic, but I kind of want to break down the physics behind this so that way you understand why we're seeing this evolution in the model guidance and in the storm itself. So first, let's take a look at the storm itself. And it is rapidly developing. Nice central dense overcast right over the center, low-level center. The storm is now vertically stacked, which when you have a warm core low is exactly what you want to see for steady intensification. Also, you see this right here. You see how these are kind of fading out here, and you see how it's expanding out here, these little feathery clouds. That's a really strong indication that we have the potential here for rapid intensification because the upper level dynamics, the anticyclonic circulation aloft that expels the latent heat release from this storm, from these thunderstorms, is well developed, which means that the engine is set up, it's ready to cook. Now it just needs a little bit of time to get revved up. And that is exactly what we're going to be seeing over the next 48 hours. That's going to allow Erin to become our first major hurricane of the year as it tracks to the north of the Lesser and Greater Antilles. Now, the great news here is that thus far, this thing's basically evading all land, which is great news. But why are we confident, especially why are the model guidance really consolidating on the idea of this thing staying away from the East Coast, aside from maybe enhanced wave heights and stronger rip currents? Well, let's take a look at this model right here. Okay, so here is the setup. Right now, we have our Western Atlantic Ridge, and as this storm really gets its act together and becomes a major hurricane, it's going to pump up the Western Atlantic Ridge, which is why we've seen a shift in the model guidance more to the west and to the southwest over the past couple of days. Also, the fact that Erin really hasn't been gaining a lot of latitude. So there's definitely been a western shift to the model guidance because we now have pretty strong confidence that this ridge is going to get pumped up by the outflow of Erin. as it becomes a more mature hurricane and reaches major category 3 status. If it becomes a category 4 or even a category 5, that won't change the dynamics all that much of the strength of this ridge. So just so you know, if it does become a category 4, it really doesn't change the forecast all that much. The key to the forecast has actually shown up here in the 90 to 108 hour time period, which is this little disturbance right here. Okay. Now, as we get to 120 hours out, which is still pretty reasonable for the synoptic models, pretty good resolution. Notice we have this trough here. Notice the orientation. It's what we call positive tilt. When you have a positively tilted trough, ahead of it, you get west and southwesterly steering currents. So you have your southerly steering currents around the ridge. You have your polar jet stream up here with generally westerly steering currents. And then you have this trough accenting the shift to more of a west-southwesterly steering current, so that by the time it gets to about 126 hours out, which is Tuesday night, this trough is diving in, and it forces Erin to take the area of least resistance, which is here. Okay? So if this was a neutral trough or a negatively tilted trough like this, it would take the area of least resistance, which would be here. But because it's a positively tilted trough, and I have to really be clear about this, literally every model, every single one, pick whatever you want. UK, Met, the GFS, the GFS, the Canadian, the British, the Brazilian, whatever model you want to pull up, is all showing a positively tilted trough. So that idea is pretty well locked in. So with that, this creates an area of the least resistance, which is right here. So that is why Erin is going to take that. And as it gets further north and it can't move any further west, it then gets picked up by an even stronger attraction, which is the deep trough over the Canadian Maritimes. And it tracks right up into there. Now, the good news for us is that, well, for this weekend, we'll have some pesky isolated showers hanging around. And in fact, on Sunday, it's actually going to be pretty toasty. And I'll show you why in a moment as a cold front swings on through. But overall, it's going to be pretty quiet. Yeah, pesky isolated shower here and there, but pretty quiet. But look what it sets up for Thursday and Friday. When you are on the western side of a departing tropical low pressure system, you get what we call subsidence. And so it sets up beautiful weather conditions for the end of next week. So if you like plenty of sunshine and tranquil weather conditions and generally cool temperatures overall, you're going to enjoy next week quite a bit. And, at the end of next week, we'll get a little bit back closer towards seasonable temperatures, but overall pretty nice. It's a pretty quiet weather pattern aside from an isolated shower or thunderstorm here and there. It's going to be a pretty quiet period of weather, and Erin will just continue to swing on out. So again, you don't have to sit around and watch each model suite and watch to see whether there's a western shift or if it's shifted an inch or two. The overall dynamics in this weather pattern is pretty well locked in. And the only question I really had was whether or not the trough was going to get here on time. But now we're in a period of what we call high resolution with our synoptic models to say, yep, trough is going to approach the Great Lakes. By the time we get to Tuesday morning, it's going to be in a positive tilt. That will kick Erin out, much like a goalkeeper away from a soccer ball. So there we go. Now, what about the warmer temperatures on Sunday? Well, let me pull up the 850 millibar temperatures if I can find them. Here we are. Okay, so Sunday looks to be a bit toasty because ahead of a cold front on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, our 850 millibar temperatures are going to spike between 18 and 20 degrees Celsius. And on the I-95 corridor, that's going to allow our temperatures to jump up into the mid-90s with a little bit of an increase in humidity, just a little bit. And what you're going to end up with is a heat index in the mid to upper 90s, possibly touching 100 in a few locations like around Newark or Philadelphia. And but that's the heat index. Temperatures themselves probably around 93, 94 degrees overall. Again, not anything that is significantly unusual for this time of year, but just so you know, Sunday is going to be a little bit more toasty than Saturday or today for that matter. But for the most part, we're looking at seasonal temperatures. And then with that cold front passage set on Sunday night into Monday, we set up a nice little cool regime where we have temperatures below normal for the start of next week and quiet weather conditions. Again, a pesky isolated shower with the onshore flow, but no major precipitation events are expected. So let's dive into this forecast. For today, look for a mix of sun and clouds and isolated showers possible. Isolated thunderstorm possible in eastern Pennsylvania where we have a little bit more instability. Look for high temperatures in the lower to mid 80s over the interior and along the coast, upper 80s to lower 90s in the Delaware River Valley and on the I-95 corridor. For tomorrow, look for scattered cloud cover. Again, can't rule out an isolated shower here and there, but again, the key word here is isolated, and these showers will be weak. Look for low temperatures in the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, upper 60s to lower 70s along the coast, and high temperatures will range from the lower to mid 80s over the interior and along the coast, mid to upper 80s on the I-95 corridor. On Sunday is our toasty day ahead of our cold front that will hold off through the afternoon hours with just scattered cloud cover. Look for low temperatures in the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, upper 60s to lower 70s along the coast, where a nice southwesterly wind will have an increase in the humidity, with high temperatures ranging from the upper 80s to lower 90s over the northern interior, lower to mid 90s on the I-95 corridor, upper 80s to lower 90s along the coast, and lower to mid 80s on Long Island, with the heat index pushing into the mid to upper 90s, possibly touching 100 degrees on the I-95 corridor, so basically your urban areas. Sunday night into Monday morning, the cold front moves through, but because of the timing, the instability will be low, but I can't rule out an isolated thunderstorm with this cold front passage. Look for low temperatures in the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, lower to mid 70s along the coast, basically due to the delay of the frontal passage. On Monday morning, there still may be an isolated shower hanging around. By Monday afternoon, look for a mix of sun and clouds with an isolated shower possible. A little bit more cloud cover on Monday is expected, but overall not too bad. Look for temperatures to range from the lower to mid 80s over the northern interior, lower to mid 80s around the New York City metro, upper 70s to lower 80s on Long Island, and mid to upper 80s around the Philadelphia metro. On Tuesday, the frontal boundary will hang around the region with scattered cloud cover. There might be a wave of low pressure that tries to develop around here that could produce a few heavier thunderstorms. But for right now, I'm going with isolated showers as most of the rest of the guidance is pretty much suggesting weak lifting here. So stationary boundary, mix of sun clouds, isolated showers, low temperatures in the lower to mid 60s over the northern interior, mid to upper 60s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the upper 60s to lower 70s over the northern interior, mid to upper 70s around the New York City metro, and upper 70s to lower 80s around the Philadelphia metro. Wednesday, rinse and repeat. Stationary front hanging around, mix of sun and clouds, a few isolated showers. Look for low temperatures in the upper 50s to lower 60s over the northern interior, mid to upper 60s along the coast. High temperatures in the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, upper 70s to lower 80s along the coast. And on Thursday, the hurricane here passes to our south and east. Strong subsidence, high pressure builds in, and that will continue on through Friday with beautiful weather conditions and plenty of sunshine. Temperatures on both days will range from the upper 50s to lower 60s over the northern interior, lower to mid 60s along the coast. High temperatures in the lower to mid 80s over the northern interior and along the coast, upper 80s to lower 90s on the I-95 corridor. That is your forecast discussion for today. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. And as always, stay safe out there.